Hey guys, hey, I'm trying out something to maybe make a little training session as far as that goes. But one of the things that got brought up to us in the GA meeting was a new idea, new way to sell long-term care. It is a big need, and costs are going to keep going up. And the nights, some of y'all may have gotten on the side, but you might not have thought about it the way this is. I certainly didn't. I know my old staple of $150 a day is not adequate enough. So I'm going to click on the site, and you should know your clients have access to this site. Okay. So key is to drill down to Texas, because we're all in Texas. And then all these bubbles are different cities, and you can go down here and you can pick San Angelo, you can pick Lubbock, you can pick Amarillo, you can pick Fort Worth. You can click on a dot, you can do whatever. You can get Midland. But I'm gonna just pick on Dallas Fort Worth because that's where I'm at right now. And you'll notice here are today's averages, right? These are real averages, they got real data from nursing homes and here as well. So, but most important thing, if you click these three dots over here, you can go over here to projections. This will project out what it will cost 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Okay. So depending on what your client's age is, if they're a 50-year-old, you can, let's say they're somewhere between 80 and 90, he's going to need care, right? Likely to need care because we all know there's a 70% chance that one on each of them. So mom and dad have a 70% chance each. But there's a 92% chance one of the two will need care. Only an 8% chance that neither need care. So today, if that in a private room, it's going to cost this person $230 a day. And in a semi-private, it's 174. Okay. And hold on, let me drill. That's actually not Dallas. So this is now Dallas. So in Dallas, it's 325 for a private room and 260 for a semi-private. Okay. If this 50-year-old, pretending he's 50, needs care in 30 years, that would be 2055. You'll notice that'll be $670 for a semi-private, and that will be $836 a day. How many of your clients' portfolios can handle $836 a day coming out? Let me just do some quick math here. That is $838 times 30. That's $25,000 a month times 12. That's $300,000 a year that'll get siphoned off their retirement fund if they don't meet you and get a plan in place. Because you can solve that for pennies on the dollar. Okay. So let's think about this. So if we go over here to our navigator, and I've already plugged in Joe and Jill Knight, and I go over here and I build a long-term care plan. And you never touch the select button if anybody. I always like annual. We're gonna do comprehensive. That gets them nursing homes, assisted living, and home health care. And we were told that today, if we want to do private room, it would be $325 a day today. So we'll go at 320, figure a 5-year benefit, 90-day elimination. Option 2, we're going to do the little bit lower. If we wanted to say semi-private, we will say 5 years, 90 days. Okay. Then we got to go over here to the spouse, match the coverage, and go back. Go right here, 30% discount. Now, 3% 3%. And you gotta realize why 3%, because this, you actually have a drop down here. So you can actually change the percent. Okay. But that's 3%. So why wouldn't our coverage match that? Right. And so if you've got that, and now we'll hit and preview this thing. Looking at this illustration, right? Well, this is the sheet we always focus on, but let's go down here to this page. I think this is probably the most important item on here. Okay. If you've got a 3% in 30 years, the cost for a full, which is this column right here, the cost for a private room in 2055 is going to be about $836 a day. So here we are, basically right at the same. If we want to say at 90 and 40 years in 2065, it's going to cost $1,100 a day, basically right there, right? So now when you're think about it, this, if you're starting here, right, you're matching something that is in line with what they're going to need 30 and 40 years from now. There's a reason why, right? And so, and then when you compare it to the GPO option, you could look at this two ways, right? But first way I'm gonna look at it is if a person gets to 90 and needs coverage, right? They're going to, it'll be 1,000, excuse me, let me go back over here to my what care cost app. In 2055, it's going to cost them $300,000 a year. Okay. So at that point, they need care. They get to stop paying premiums, right? Once they go under care, if they're 80 and need care, they only spent $101,000 for Joe's policy. And if they use, by the time Jill's 80 as well, they would have spent $162,000 on hers. Okay. So let's add that up. So that's $262,000. If one of them goes under care at this moment, in less than a year, they would recoup every premium dollar. And they wouldn't have to waste their entire retirement savings on this one thing. Okay. That's the benefit. Okay. If they get to 90, in cost of care, looking at the what care cost app, if they get to 90, it's going to be $1,124 times 12, 13, excuse me. No, that's times 30. That's 33,000 a month times 12, 400 grand in 1 year for one of them, if one of them needs care. And at that point, they would have outlaid 215,000 plus that. So you're outlaying 300 and almost 50,000. Same story is still true, guys. But their premium never went up. Think about that. Now, the Knights obviously have the wherewithal and ability to raise premiums and so forth, right? That could happen. It's only happened once in any of our time here working for the Knights. And it's only happened once in the history since 1999. So it's, I would call it rare. And so I'm pretty confident. Now I would come back to this main page and I would make it bigger, right? And this is how I would sell it. I would make it big enough to where the premium is out of here. Okay. When I'm showing this on screen, because what do they focus on? They'll go straight to that premium. Okay. I might even do it like this, right? Because I don't want them getting on the premium. I don't mind this premium right here being shown, right? Why? Because it's high, and what we're going to do is we're going to show it less because we're going to show the discount, right? And so I will explain this in this manner, right? Those of you that don't sell a lot of long-term care, this is how you explain it, because it's a lot of moving parts. Pretend you're the client right now, Mr. and Mrs. Knight. There's a lot of moving parts on here. What I have developed is something that is built based on what your actual need is. Option one is built if you would like to have coverage enough to have a private room. Option two is if you would be okay with a semi-private. That's the only real difference in these two options. And this $320 a day, that's what it costs today, right? And if you take that times 30, that's what that number comes up with. And that, if you use that amount of coverage, 4 or 5 years, that's when you would have exhausted this entire amount. If you only needed half of that, your benefit years would go be 10. Because if you're using half the benefits, you're going to get to use this longer, because what you're really buying is this over $500,000 benefit. So 90-day elimination, what elimination period is, ma'am, is that if you became claim eligible today on say January 1, January, February, March, you would be kind of on your own, taking care of each other or self-paying. And then month 4, you would bring in the nurse, and then you'd pay them, and then we would reimburse you. Okay. Then the cost for the inflation protection, because we know cost of care is, we know it for this plan, it's going to be $800 to $1,000 when we actually need that care a day. And so we want to make sure to have an inflation protection on there. What waiver premium is the fact that waiver premiums on there, because once you go under claim, you don't want to pay premiums. That's counterproductive for us to trade money together. And guess what? You're 50 years old right now. If you pass away between now and 65, we're giving you all your money back in the form of a death benefit. Okay. So that's all included in there. Now, because we're writing both of you, notice the assume the sell, right? And so I'll say, because we're writing both of you, you get a marital discount. So that's 30%. And just to tell you, like a lot of times that one of the two don't get approved. If one of y'all didn't get approved, that would go down to 15%. You're still getting a discount. So that's a big savings. That's that's over $3,500 a year that you're saving because of that. So hopefully we can get both of you approved. But even if it's half of that, it's still $1,700 with the savings. It's huge. So if we add all that up for both of you for a year, that's $8,000, right? $8,500. I would call it to be fully covered and so forth. And what I always like to share with people, let's assume all people need care at age 85. That's 35 years for you. So I'm going to take and add up the amount of years to get to 85. So let me make this a little smaller. Well, where did it go? And so I'm going to take 80, so they're 50 years old right now. So that would be 35 times 8,521 and 63 cents. That's $298,000 that you will spend between now and 85. And if I divide just today's benefit, and by that time, actually, I don't have to guess, right? So by that time, if we're 85, we know what we spent, right? By that moment at 85, we're going to be paying $900 a day, right? It's right there. So if I take 900 a day times 30, that is going to be $27,000. So divided by $27,000. That's a month, guys. That's insane. And so if one of you end up under care at age 85, in about 11 months, you will recoup every premium dollar. The average person is going to need this care for over almost 3 years. So what about the other 600,000 that you're going to spend if you don't have this plan? Because this covers you, we got it covering you for 5 years. Okay. They, and guys, we should be selling this stuff like hotcakes. And guess what? You should sell it earlier. Why? They're more likely to get approved. Why? It's a lot cheaper. Why? They need it. They're going to get old too. And at 40, if they are getting this and die between now and 65, they're getting all their money back. So they're basically buying a life insurance policy at the same time in that sense. But if they live past 65, they're high odds of needing this. But they have zero risk buying it young. You could make a claim to buy a young person and have a low benefit and have a 5% inflation protection right to get to the number. Because guess what? You can project out 50 years worth of time on this What Care Cost app. Okay. So if you've got let's just pretend you got a 30-year-old, you can get him to 80 and show him what it's going to cost. And guess what? It's cheaper. It's cheaper and they're more likely to get approved. They're going to need it. Sadly, we wait till we get to a place where we're taking care of our family and we're watching our parents' lifetime earnings and savings go away until the kids have to take over. Don't let that be your clients. Last time I'll leave you, this What Care Cost app website is shareable. You can share it. You can let them do the research and show them how to do it. But you should 1000% start selling long-term care, starting with the What Care Cost app and showing your clients and disturbing them. If I'm disturbed by these numbers, that's why I have long-term care myself. You should be disturbed by these numbers because you need to have it on yourself, right? But you should be disturbing them because nobody's thinking like this. Nobody's thinking, man, I might have to spend 30 grand a month to take care of me in my old age. But that's what this is. That's just with a 3% inflation. Guys, we've had a lot higher the most recent years. And I mean, you can play with these numbers. If you want to say it's 1%, 2%, you can do whatever, but cover whatever the client is comfortable with. But at least if you start here, maybe price is too high. Maybe then you back down to 3 years, and then maybe you back down to GPO option, right? And then you start cutting down because something's going to be better than nothing. I'd rather have $400 a month coming in and need 800 than have nothing come in and need 800. Something better than nothing. Have conviction with this, man. This should make y'all a lot of money this year. God bless. Happy selling.